I want to speak today on the idea of a golden age. The idea of a golden age being the idea of a generally greater or happier time for humanity, such as we find in myths of the past, which necessarily include a kind of falling, such as in the fall from Eden or the Taoist idea of the fall from the womb. But sometimes more concrete, such as when ancient Chinese thinkers speak of the prehistoric time before the Xia dynasty. But the idea of a golden age can also be applied even more concretely to well documented periods of history, such as, for instance, this picture comes from the Song Dynasty, which is supposed to have been or is described as a golden era for China, or whatever whatever great prosperous era for a nation or a civilization. But the idea of a golden age can be applied, of course, to the future also. When we say, for instance, that if only the world was so and so, which then becomes the affirmation of some kind of norm. Or perhaps eventually, if that golden age we want to think of is more anarchist, the absence of norms. But really, then the idea of a golden age becomes that actually timeless idea of a utopia, including all the issues and contradictions and impossibilities that come, and alienation even that comes with utopic thought. Then take, for example, the philosophy of romanticism, where romanticism at first was more than the exaltation of individual or personal narratives. Um, Romanticism as a social project, however dreamy, because the inspiration for this video comes from this aphorism from August Wilhelm Schlegel, who is part of the original group of the German Frühromantik, especially through his brother Friedrich. This he wrote for their collection of sayings called the Athenaeum. And here he says, the illusion of a former golden age is one of the greatest obstacles against the coming of the the golden age that is to come. If the golden age really has been, then it must not have been truly golden, because gold cannot rust and it cannot disintegrate. And this is the main point I want to pick up. Gold cannot rust and it cannot disintegrate. It comes out of all mixing and destroying so undestructibly itself. And if the golden age should not last forever, then it would be better for it to never come up, because then it only serves it's only good for making elegies about its loss. I want to pick up the point that Schlegel makes here, but maybe come to a different conclusion. That central point being that gold cannot, at least cannot humanly be created or lost. The idea being, of course, that we applied properties of physical gold to that metaphorical idea of a golden age. There's pretty obvious incoherence here, because When Willem says that the golden age cannot have been because gold does not is not created and is not lost, and that the golden age, given the properties of gold, must be eternal. Uh, at the same time, that would mean that a future golden age is also impossible because where would the gold come from for the future golden age? It's interesting maybe to think of those romantic thinkers as like some sort of tragic alchemists, spiritual alchemists trying to create gold for the future. But anyway, recycling the point that Schlegel is making here, uh, we could draw a different, more coherent conclusion, being that it cannot be that there has ever been a particularly golden age, and also that there cannot be a future age with more gold, since gold is neither created nor destroyed. Although, of course, when I mean, there might be in defense of Schlegel, for instance, when he used the word "anhaben," we could we could think of it as we could suppose his idea is that the gold for the future golden age would not be created, but it would be unearthed somehow, which makes sense, which is what we do with physical gold also. But let me simply stick to the simple idea that gold is a basic chemical element that cannot be created or destroyed, and continue to apply it then to the idea of a golden age. Because then it would be foolish to lament over an age past which is supposed to have been more golden, or to dream longingly of a future golden age. We could also add, still thinking about physical gold, that gold is rare. And then we could, and this is the title of this painting, we could perhaps speak of golden hours. The rare golden hours. Although this again risks the risks uh, uh, slipping back into a more individual message, personal message. But we could maybe think of like the golden hours of humanity or something like that, which would meaning, of course, like a shorter, like an instant, not an entire age, but an instant, but instants that always have been there. And then we would instead be cherishing, or perhaps sighing over those golden instants, which is also a romantic way to spin it, really, and less tragic. A more serious objection would be, again, and this is what in the quote Schlegel maybe was hinting at, that gold can be hidden and then it can be unearthed, and then it would make sense to have had like a time where gold was revealed, but then was hidden again and must be unearthed again. But that's already a much more concrete or much more active message, right? Such that we should get digging. Translated spiritually, that would become, and this is maybe is my final point. The idea would become a question of attention, because of course we're talking about this kind of metaphorical digging. Could be a question of paying attention to those golden hours to catch the sparkle. And I guess this was my rant against the idea of a golden age.